Hi everybody, it's so nice to be back with you today, and welcome along. Welcome to my recently refurbished room. Most of it not behind me, and that's a much bigger job. So today I thought we would have a look at watercolouring some of the die cuts, the flower die cuts. And I'm using this Arteza. It's an inexpensive watercolour paper. It's cold press for those of you that matters to. There's 32 sheets, watercolour pad, and it says expert. I don't know why it says that. Whatever. It's there's 32 sheets in the pad. It's 9 by 12, and it's £140 or 300 grams, as we say here in the UK. And it's double-sided. One side's smooth, one's textured. That doesn't really make any difference to us today for what we're doing. So that's the paper. And this is what we're going to be painting. Not all of these, you'll be glad to know, because there are masses of them and leaves on this side. I've picked out a few that I just wanted to show you, so as you could, if you're in the fortunate position of having these Tim Holtz wildflower dies, then make the most of them. You can cut them out of printed paper, and they look lovely if you do that, actually. Particularly if you sort of fussy cut them. Select a piece of paper that is going to look good with them. But I personally like to cut them out of the watercolour paper and then watercolour on them, and then I can have them whatever colour I want. So let's get started. I'm using inexpensive paints. I'm using Derwent. There's two sets of them, set 1 and set 2. And I think they call them inks. They're like the ink tens. That's what they call them, ink tens paints. Exactly the same as the ink tens colouring pencils that you get, but they're in a block, in a pan, in the set. I'm using, particularly today, because I don't want you to think I'm getting any effects just because I've got fancy brushes or anything. So I'm not using my fancy watercolour brushes. I'm just using regular brushes that you might even have around the house for the kids or whatever. They are quite small. The brushes are quite small, but apart from that, nothing fancy. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start on the stem part of them. I'm going to select this green here, I think. So I'm just going to add some water to the colour and then bring it out over there. Get plenty of paint on it, but then add plenty of water, because you don't want it to look too pigmented. So I'm just using a spritzer. You could use any mode of getting your paint into that pan. And then I'm just going to do the stem, and I'm just doing it loosely. I'm literally pouncing it on like that. And don't try and be any more fussy than that, because it won't work. You won't get that nice effect. So that's that one done. Let's add a little bit of this green into it, so we get a slightly different green. Wow, that is a different green. Same thing, pouncy. So I'm not painting as such. I'm literally just putting the colour onto the stem. That's all I'm doing. Don't worry if you've missed bits or whatever. Just don't worry about it. So I'm going to take a different green, a lighter green this time, and add that into our mix. You see, every time I do it, it changes the hue of the green. That's quite a nice green. I like that one. So if you can leave sort of pools of paint, so much the better. Don't go back into it and try and even it out. Leave leave the pools. That's nice. I might do another one in that, actually. I like that. So just pouncing. You could probably even do this with a sponge, to be honest, because the brush has got no effect at all. I'm not painting. There we are. So it's not dry. See, it dries back really quite light, and it's dry. Now I didn't put much on it. So I'm going back in with that lighter colour, and I'm just adding little bits to it. Just so it looks more interesting. So there's a couple of colours of green on there, and it makes it just look that little bit more interesting. Same one here. So I'm sort of going down the stem and then at the bottom of the leaf, as if it was almost in shadow, really. So I am being slightly more selective with this one than I was with the first. And I will cover up those bits of white. So there we go, there's little bits down here as well. And watercolour, when it dries much more faded. It loses a lot of its colour when it dries. So now I'm going to introduce some yellow into this, because these greens are quite light. So I want a nice bright yellow, bright green. And I'm just going to do the same thing. Come down here and just add little bits to it. Not being fussy, really not being fussy at all. I've still got enough paint on my brush to do this. It doesn't take much paint and it doesn't take much time. It's just when you're confronted with a load of them like I am at the moment, I know it's going to take me quite a while to get through them. Right, so that's that. That's those stems done. Let me just wipe up underneath them so as we can see what's on the stem and what's on the board. These two here are much brighter, and it's just the mix that you use. You know, if you add yellows to greens, you're going to get a much lighter green. So there we are, that's those four. And I'm just going to give them a quick blast and then we'll come back and do the tops of them. Oops, craft a lunge. Once they're dry, we'll see if they need any more dark or light or whatever added to them. Well, I can't add light, I can add dark. They're dry now. It's such a small area, they really don't take long to dry at all. So I'm going to come back to this light bright green that we had here, and I'm just going to brighten these ones up, but I'm just sort of going on the tops of the leaves and the stem. So just on the top, the side nearest to the flower. I'm going to do the same with this one. So the top of it only, and it'll should make it look like there's light falling on it. Just that one out. There we are. And this I might add a slightly darker colour to, just to give us a bit of difference between the light and the dark. So I'm adding a bit more of the green into the colour. Drying my brush off a little bit, and I'm just going to add this to the bottom because this is supposedly in the shade. So just to the bottom of the leaves. and it just gives it that look like it's, well, we're not trying to make it look real, but like it's got light falling on it. That's the important thing when you're painting. It's all about shadow and dark and light. So there we are. Yep, I think that's fine. I think they look nice. I'm just going to clean my brush out in a tub of water and just dry it off onto a kitchen towel. Now we've got to think about what colour we might want to make them, the flowers themselves. So I think I'm going to do one. I'm going to start off with yellow, and just to get the paint going, if you just spritz it. I did spritz this before time, but it's dried up. So I'm just going to mix that into there, and you can see that is a very bright yellow. But that's okay. Flowers can be bright yellow. So I've got that, and I'm just going to come in on each petal. Might miss some little bits out, leave them white, just like that. Okay, so that's one yellow one. What other colour? Well, we could do, I've got a nice pink, I think, over here. So I'll have a look at that. So it's a very light pink at the best of times. Don't use your best brushes for getting paint up out of the pans, because you'll ruin them. But this isn't my best brush, so we're alright. So there we are. This is a very, will dry, a very delicate colour, I think. That's okay. So you can darken it and add more. There we are. So nothing complicated is going on here at all. What other colour can we have? Blue, I guess. We could have blue. You get cornflowers and stuff in blue, don't you? This looks like a nice blue. Let's try this one. Add a little bit of water to that to make it flow and look better. It looks better. So there we are. I've got a really nice light blue there. That's a lovely colour. You of course will have your own colours. You might be using your kids' play colours. That's fine. It really is fine. But I'm leaving the centre for after. So what colour should we do this? Should we do it red? I could do it orange. Oh, I don't know. What colours? What other colours do you get? Looking through my paints. I don't know. There's quite a nice orangey one over here. Let's try that. Ooh, that's nice, isn't it? Add a bit of water to it. Ooh, I like that. And it's nice when it pools like this. You get nice effects from it pooling. Okay, so there we are. We've painted all our flowers. The first coat, anyway. And you can see how they've faded back. I mean, this was a ludicrously bright yellow, but it's faded back a little bit. So let's just wash the brush out from there. And I'm going to take some of that orange that we've just used and add it to the yellow. Just going to add some more yellow to that. So we get a sort of mid-tone orangey yellowy colour. Just add some water to it. There we go. Load the brush up and then just come in and don't go all over it, just little bits. Pool it up. make it pool. Like that. So there's still some nice yellow bits showing through, but we've now got that orange on it. And we'll come back and do yet another coat of that. Next one we did was the pink. Now I want to strengthen that colour because that's quite a pale pink, and this colour here is a sort of magenta colour, and it will strengthen that colour up. Just add a bit of water to it. So I'm just going to come in round the tips particularly and just drop some of that colour onto it. Just around the edges like that. Okay, and then we'll do the same with the blue. So I want a richer blue, so I'm going to add more paint and less water. Give me a stronger colour. Same thing here, just kind of around the edges. Of the petals. Now we have it. Just don't be too exact, that's the thing. The more kind of exact you are, the less good it looks really. So we're back to this orangey one, and that's just a lovely colour. I really, really like it. But I'm going to add some orange to it, some really bright orange. See what happens to the colour. Oh yeah, it's gone orange, not that sort of terracotta. So I'm just going to come in from the edges. Just want a bit more water on my brush. Just get it to pool. Just going to add some water to that bit there because it's a bit strong. So there we are. Right, so that's 4 flowers done to that point. They look very bright in the camera. I don't think in real life they're quite that bright, but they are quite nice. I'll just give those a quick dry. Okay, so now we'll have a look at the centres. So the centres I want to be a sort of this sort of colour, this yellowy browny sort of colour. It's called ochre. Put that there. Add some water to it. And then I'm just going to kind of splosh it around. That's what I'm doing. I'm sploshing. And I'm only going round, can you see, 3 sides. This side nearest to me. Like that. So you don't want it any more detailed than that. That's great for this moment in time. So, do we need to do anything else? Yeah, maybe. Maybe we do. I'm going to use that colour that I've just used for the centre. And I'm just going to go around some of these, the bottom parts, the bottom part of the petal. And when you get up here, just select a side. And then when you come around the top, go back to the bottom, just the bottom of the petal. Like that. Now, I hope you can see, I'm not so sure that you can, that's really brought that to life. It's a very bright day here. I haven't actually got any electric lights on. This is natural light, and it's still really bright. So, and I can't possibly draw the curtains because I have no curtain rails. At the moment, I have no curtain rails whatsoever. So I'm adding some dark colour into that pink, and that's really, really dark. Let's add some water. I'm just going to go around, do exactly the same thing to this pink one. Just adding shadows, I guess, you know, just a pretend shadow. So that's that one. And the blue. Actually, that blue looks nice to me. I'm not going to add anything more to it. This one, I think, could possibly use a bit more of our very vibrant orange. I'll add it to that yellow because I don't think I want the yellow anymore for a while. So I'm just going to do the same thing here. So it will dye back, the colour dyes back, so don't worry if you think you've committed a howler. Don't worry, I'm quite sure that you won't have done, and when it dyes back you really can't see it anyway, to be honest. So now our centres have dried. So I want a slightly darker colour, and that looks like brown to me. Yeah, that is. So I'm just going to add a little bit of brown into that colour that we used already for the centres. So I'm just toned that down with a little bit of brown, and I'm just going to go around the outside of this centre just with that slightly darker brown. Just pull it around there. Now Mr. F has said to me that I make it look easy. But I think a lot of it is easy. It just is easy. So don't be afraid. The thing that I would say to you is try and work out which side you think is your light and which is your dark. And make sure that your darker colours are on the shadowy side. But you know, here we've messed around with, we've put shadows all over the place really. But I think they look quite nice. Quite like those actually. I'm just going to go in, I think, with a little bit of a sort of yellowy colour just into the centre, running out of places. I'll just put it in this side here. So that's mixed with a little bit of that ochre and orange colour. But it's a really nice centre flower colour. And I'm just going to put some dots on it there. Just make it look slightly more authentic. And there we are. I think those flowers are finished. I'll go back and do a couple of leaves to go with them. I'll just give those a dry off. I mean, they'd look really pretty in an arrangement in your journal, I think. You know, if you stuck them on and then tied a little bit of string around them or anything like that, they'd look lovely. They just look so much more interesting and personal than just cut out of a random piece of paper or card. So there we are, 4 daisies. Let's have a look at our bouquet. I can't really say bouquet without thinking of hyacinth bouquet. And I know a lot of you in the States won't have heard of hyacinth bouquet, but she was in a television programme and it was very funny. So, oh, where are you? There you are. So there's our flowers. They look 3D-ish. They look nice. So let's move on from that and let's have a look at some of the leaves. Just get some of these out at random. I'll try another 4 again. 4 different ones if I can get them. Yeah, there we go. So we're back onto the greens. I've got another paint palette here because I want these. I want the palette part of it. And I'm just gonna, I don't think you can see that actually. Yeah, there you can. But I'm just gonna mix up some greens, and I'm actually just gonna take any kind of greens I can see. That's a very pretty colour actually, that one. That one there, it's really nice. So I'll get plenty of that. And I'll just use that to start with. I like that colour, it's nice. So once again I'm just blobbing. This is the first stage and it's the blob stage, and we can all do that. We can all blob. Your kids can blob. I'll do 2 like this, and then we'll change up the colour a little bit. I mean, this is great if you want to do autumn leaves, because I mean, obviously I'm painting these green. We're just in the first sort of flush of spring, really. But if it was the other end of the year and we wanted to do autumn, then you can easily do them in oranges and reds and yellows and browns, and you know, you've got your very own autumn leaves there. So that's those 2. I'm just going to change up the colour a little bit. I'm going to take what I've got left in there, and I'm just going to add another green to it, just to change it up a bit. Add a little bit of water to it. Just do this one. Blobbity blob. Blobbity blob. Not sure all of these dyes are Tim Holtz. They're all in the same, I keep them all in the same packet because I use them, I just sort of swap them out, you know, it doesn't matter to me really what it is. So I couldn't tell you exactly who the manufacturer is, I'm afraid, except to say that the majority are Tim Holtz. Old Timmy, our friend Timmy. Right, so that's the base coat on. These ones will now be dry. So I want to come back with something slightly darker with a bit more oomph to it. So I'm going to use this one, I think. Yeah. Now that's a very dark and quite a dead green. So I'm actually going to add some of this much lighter green to it, just to cheer it up a bit. Yeah, that's better. Add some water to that. Looks a bit thick. There we are. And I am literally going to blob towards the end, but you know, not exactly. Just blob on the ends of your leaves, like that. Same here. Just give it a bit of 3D-ness. There we go. And I'll leave those to dry properly and come back and do something more to them. This, I'm just going to try and get along the bottom, the darker one, nearer to the ground as it would be if it was growing. And it takes time, this, it just does take time. So it's the sort of thing to do if you've lost your mojo one day, and we all have days like that. I have plenty of days like that. And, you know, it's When you've lost your mojo, there's certain things that are really nice to do, I think. Fussy cutting is one, because you can switch the telly on, fussy cut away, you don't notice the time going by, and hey presto, at the end of a period of time, the end of your programme, whatever it might be, there you go, you've got a lovely pile of fussy cuts. Another thing to do, what else could you do? You can sketch if you're that way inclined. I quite like to sketch. You can colour in. If you've got stamps that you can stamp out but they need a little bit of colour added to them, that's a nice thing to do when you've lost your mojo, I think. Or you can endlessly die cut, and then another day when you've lost your mojo, you can endlessly paint. So, you know, there's plenty of things that we can be doing apart from actually putting pages together in a journal. In fact, that's kind of, you know, I don't think that's what it's all about, really. So there we are, we've got 4 different leaves. They're all slightly different. This one I'm going to come in and go dark down the middle, I think. I feel a need to go dark down the middle. Move over onto the dark side. So I've got some paint there that's quite, what would be described in watercolour language as quite thick, in as much as it hasn't got much water in it. So I'm just kind of going to go down this middle. Not exact at all. Don't want it to look exact. So there we are, that's fine. Happy with that now, that's lovely. Let's mix this together, see what we get. Yeah, it's quite dark, so I'm just going to come in on the very tips of these leaves here, and that will be that done, I think. I might just take some water to it and just pull that out a little bit, because it looks a bit like it's stopped in a straight line. Nature seldom does do that. So yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with that. That's done. That's probably done, but I'll wait till it dries. It might just need something. I think that's done. I quite like that. Once again, looks like I've stopped in a bit of a straight line, so I'll just merge that in a little bit with the tiniest little bit of water I've got on my brush. Okay, so now we've got this one. Well, I think we'll go for a more zesty green. So let's add some yellow. I need to spritz my paints again. They're getting a bit. We'll add that to there. That's olive green. That's gorgeous. It's one of my favourite colours, actually. So I'm blobbing, but with intent. I'm blobbing the upper part of the leaves, because they are the lightest. They're the bits that's catching the sun. Yeah, that's fine. And there's certain bits, this bit here, that doesn't have a lot of paint on at all, and that's fine. Absolutely fine. So I'm just going to go into the tops of this. I said I might, and I am, just with that very bright olivey colour. Just bring it to life a little bit more. This is a nice one. I'm pretty sure it's not a Tim Holtz, but it's the one I use quite often, because you can actually snip bits off it and stick them in places. So yeah, that's that. 4 leaves. Quite happy with that. Let's bring our 4 flowers back in. See if, well, I might just give them a bit of a blast first. I'm just going to move them over quite carefully, because they're still fragile when they're not properly dry. I'm just going to clean my surface off a little bit. This is a glass mat that I'm using. If you've got a messy mat or whatever. But I wouldn't use your good cutting mat. You will get it off because it's only watercolour, but just be in the right mess until you do. So we've got those 4. I've got my 4 daisies. And I'm just going to do another couple of flowers just so we can make a little sort of bouquet, really. And I can show you how to do them. There's that one. And what else should we do? This one maybe. Yeah. And one of the tall ones. I think they always look nice if you're making a sort of bunch of flowers, if you like. So as soon as I've got the greens on the go, well, I thought I had. I've only got this green on the go, but never mind, that'll do. I'll do the greenery first. So I'm just adding water from my brush to there. Right. Now then, this one's fairly straightforward. You can see it's got a head at the top. It's just got, you know, down here it is just leaves. There's no buds or anything like that to take into account. So I'm just giving it all of one coat, like so. Right. Now then, this one, I'm just going to add a little bit more green to it, make it slightly darker colour. Right, you've got to work out where you think the flower is and where you think is foliage. And I think that's foliage there. I think that's foliage there and there. And then just a little bit round there. And then I think the flower's sitting on the top. Stem's green. Looks like a leaf to me. And possibly round the bottom there. It's a guess. It's a guess because I really don't know. That looks like a little bud there. That looks like a bud as well. What's what here? I think that's foliage and the rest might be buds and stuff. Buds and stuff. And that's just green. So that's my best guess at what's going on there. And then this, well, this looks like it's got a bud on the end of every... So I'm just really going to do the stem, because I think they are flowers or buds down there. So I'm just going to do the stem like that, and then we can colour in the rest. Right, so they've got one colour on, but they're pretty wishy-washy like that. So I'm going to add some of this green to our mix, which will darken it down considerably, like that, which you can't see, like that. And I'm just going to go just over the tips of the leaves. Don't know where that red came from, but never mind. Sometimes nature isn't perfect. So there we are. I'm just going to get some water on my brush and just pull that out a little bit because it looks a bit straight liney. There we go. Might come back and do some more on that, I'm not sure. Now then, this one. Right in the bottom of that flower, I think it's going to be darker green, where the sun isn't getting to it. So I'm going to put the darkest green there, and along there, and along here. Under that bud, around here, down there, and maybe just a little bit down the stem. So that's darkened up those. Maybe a little bit too dark in some places. If you put a colour down and you don't like it, wipe everything off your brush and then just pop your brush down. And if you're quick enough, you can lift some of it or all of it back off. So that's what I've done to there pretty much. Now this one, this is a funny old one, isn't it? So I'm literally just going to put a drop of this darker just where the bud starts. And you can barely see it. I mean, I'm sure to you it's imperceptible. But I know it's there. Just makes it look a little bit more lifelike. Okay, so there we are. This one still needs something darker. Darker? What have I got that's darker? Well, I've got this one. Not my favourite green in the world, but it is darker. So I am literally just going to go up the edge there, like that, down here. There we are. And I'm just going to take some water on my brush and just go over that just to get rid of that line that I've created. Smooth it in, as it were. So there we are. We've got 3 flower stems. We've done the leaves. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of really dark in there. And I can't stop myself. I'm sure you don't need to do this. I just can't stop myself. Oh no. This is just getting too fussy by half. Anyway, there we are. Let's give them a quick blast and then we'll put some colour on them. Lovely. You want to dry those off before you put the colours of the flowers on, because if you don't, they'll all merge together and you'll end up probably with something that, you know, resembles mud. And that's not what you want. Well, it's not what I want. So let's have a look at a purple. I just think these flowers are purple. I don't know why. They just remind me of flowers that we had when I was a child. And we imaginatively named them purplies because I don't think we knew. I don't think my mum knew what they were called. I actually think there was some sort of allium, but we didn't know that. So, you know, we referred to them. They were right outside the front door as well. There was a whole load of lily of the valley, and then there was these purplies. So, to me, they will always be purple. Now, I've loaded my brush up really well. And I'm just going to splodge. And I don't mind if I leave some white bits. I just want plenty of paint on. Like that. So there's no more I can do to that at the moment. That's pretty saturated. I can't really do any more until it's dry. So let's move that over here, clean this so we can see what we're doing. And I'm just going to give that a quick blast. And I want to add something more lively to it. That looks, it's purple all right, but it's a bit of a dead looking colour. So I'm going to add the magenta from this one into there. And that's cheered it up. That's cheered it up no end. And I'm just going to sploosh again. Sploosh around. Like that. And I don't think it needs any more than that. I think that's good. I'm going to call that good. Well, I'm not saying it's good. I mean, I'm just calling it finished. So let's dry that and see what we've got. There we are. Now it doesn't come easier than that, guys, does it? Sploosh, sploosh, splash, splash, you're done. there you have it. It looks like it's, you know, got real character. So put that over there with the finished boys. Right, let's do this one. So what colour shall we do him? I do not know. Let's go for a more pinky colour. I'm going to use that purple that I've already used, but I'm going to add more of this magenta into it. Much more. So it is basically magenta. I'm going to leave it thick like that because these buds are only tiny, and if I don't leave it thick, you just won't see the colour. So it is a matter of just going over them. Nothing more complicated than that. You can't really get shading on these, so if I was you, I wouldn't bother trying, just paint them in. And that's that. That's that pretty much done there. Looks nice. Effective. So now we come back to this one, which I think is the most complex of the Tim Holtz wildflowers that we do, because you've got to work out where you think the flower is for a start and where's light and where's dark. So you can see I've added some dark bits in the greenery that I think would be in shadow, and I think I'm going to do this in a sort of yellowy orangey colour, hopefully so you can see what I'm doing. So clean your brush off of all that magenta that you had on it. Treat yourself to some clean water if you feel you want to. And I'm going to just go into this yellow and make it quite bright. So there we go. Oh, that's very thick. So I'm just going to paint the bits that I've left that I thought first time round were the flowers. I don't know if I'm right. It's just got a bit too much on it, but I'm too late, I can't get that off, so I'll just have to live with that. Be alright. Right, so the next thing I want to do is darken that down so it can come and put the shadows in the flowers. So I'm going to use that colour that we used for the centre of the flowers, centre of those daisies, and I'm just going to add it, a little bit of yellow to that, just so I've got the same sort of colour but just darkened down a bit. I'm just going to go into the bottom here where it sort of goes into the leaves. I think that looks all right. So I've got a wet brush here and I'm just sort of picking that darker colour up. I don't know if you can hear that noise. They've decided to have a party outside. That's not strictly true. It's two elderly men chatting about whatever the elderly men chat about. I've no idea. So there we are. I think you probably got the hang of what to do for these. It's a bit of daubing and a bit of splishing and a bit of splashing, and that's your lot really. So we've got these, which look very pretty together, and if we bring in a nice blue one there, it all looks really rather nice, and some leaves perhaps just to complete the picture of these ones, because they go out that way, and this one which can go out that way. So there we are. We've ended up with something really very pretty, And we have additional ones that we could put in if we wanted. And additional leaves. So there we are. I mean, it didn't take very long at all. And we've got all of these to play with. So if you really don't like what you've done, turn over and have a go on the other side. Nothing's stopping you doing that. But I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm sure you'll get on with it great. I really do like this one, actually, once it's done. It is, as I say, the most complicated one. But it does look really nice when it's finished. I say that. I love the daisies. They're probably my favourites. Yeah, probably. And you see the darkness in the centre. Just brings them to life a little bit. So there we are. Lovely. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll be back with you very soon. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a go. Have a bish bash splash. I'll see you soon. Bye.